Have you ever actually stopped to think about what happens when you hand over your hard-earned money to a mutual fund? I mean, who is out there actually standing guard over it? In the massive, incredibly fast-moving Indian financial market, it is so easy to feel like a tiny fish in a very, very large ocean. But the truth is, you are far from alone out there.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to completely demystify the dense and, let's be honest, often intimidating legal framework that protects retail investors in India. We're going to uncover the precise regulations, the strict boundaries, and the absolute power of the watchdogs guarding your wealth. By the end of this explainer, I promise you're going to view your investments in a completely different, much more empowered light. To keep things simple, we've structured our journey into 4 quick chapters: the financial guardians, mutual fund rules explained, the truth in advertising, and finally, your rights as an investor.
All right, let's jump right in. Chapter 1. The Financial Guardians. So in India, we basically have the big 4 regulators operating under the Ministry of Finance. You've got the RBI handling banking, the IRDAI looking after insurance, and the PFRDA overseeing pensions. But the absolute hero of our mutual fund story today, that is SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India. If you invest a single rupee in the stock market or in mutual funds, SEBI is the ultimate highway patrol enforcing the rules of the road.
Now, you know what's really wild? If you actually read SEBI's foundational mission, right from its preamble, notice the very first thing it says: to protect the interest of investors. Before it even mentions promoting development, before regulating the market, its absolute primary directive is your protection. SEBI literally exists to make sure you aren't subjected to market manipulation or reckless risks taken by the funds managing your money.
Which brings us to Chapter 2, Mutual Fund Rules Explained. Let's look at those actual traffic laws.
If SEBI is the highway patrol, their very first major speed limit is 10%. They use this magic number to enforce the golden rule of investing: diversification. Under SEBI regulations, a mutual fund generally cannot own more than 10% of a single company's voting rights. Essentially, they legally cannot put all your eggs in one corporate basket. And they are incredibly strict about how thorough these guardrails are. This 10% rule isn't just for traditional company shares. It explicitly caps exposure to single issuers of things like REITs, real estate investment trusts, and INVITs, the infrastructure investment trusts. No mutual fund across all of its schemes can own more than 10% of units from a single INVIT issuer. They are making absolutely sure the fund stays properly diversified across the board.
But wait, it doesn't just stop at equity. This 10% rule cleverly applies to debt investments too. A mutual fund scheme cannot invest more than 10% of its net asset value in debt instruments from just one single issuer. This completely limits credit risk because if one company defaults on its loans, your entire fund doesn't just collapse. Plus, open-ended debt funds are actually required to keep a minimum of 10% of their money in highly liquid assets like cash or treasury bills. Why? Well, so that when you ask for your money back, the fund has actual cash on hand to pay you without scrambling.
Okay, so let's flip that. We talked about a maximum limit, but what about a minimum requirement? Try 80%. If you invest in an equity-linked savings scheme, an ELSS, you're doing it to save on taxes while expecting equity-level returns, right? CBI rules mandate that an ELSS fund must have at least 80% of its funds invested strictly in equity. A fund manager can't suddenly get cold feet and put half your money into low-yielding bonds. They literally have to stay true to the label. Moving right along to Chapter 3, the truth in advertising. SEBI basically uses a strict traffic light system for how these funds can market to you. On the forbidden side, no deceptive projections, no unfair comparisons, and absolutely no confusing jargon meant to hide the real risks. And get this, celebrities are totally forbidden from endorsing specific mutual fund schemes. On the allowed side, everything has to be accurate and crystal clear. If a scheme has been around for a while, they are forced to show the compound annual growth rate for 1, 3, and 5 years to give you the true historical picture. Now, celebrities can participate at an industry level, but only to promote general investor education, paid for by a pooled fund. No playing favorites.
We've all heard this phrase, speed red, at the end of a commercial, right? Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully. It almost becomes a joke with how incredibly fast they try to get through it. But SEBI takes this so seriously. By regulation, that exact 14-word standard warning must be used. You can't add words, you can't delete words. And for TV or digital video ads, SEBI mandates that this voiceover has to run for at least 5 full seconds, so it's actually understandable. They will not let fund houses get away with burying the risks.
And when it comes to reporting how well they're doing, SEBI demands absolute apples-to-apples comparisons. A mutual fund can't just pick some random benchmark that magically makes them look like geniuses. SEBI dictates exactly which benchmark must be used based on the type of scheme. And crucially, they require funds to benchmark against a total return index, or TRI. A traditional index only measures the capital gains of the stocks. But a total return index, that includes all the dividends and interest payments generated too. By forcing funds to use the TRI, SEBI ensures the manager's performance is measured against the most realistic standard possible. All right, final section, Chapter 4, Your Rights as an Investor. This is where it gets really empowering. As a mutual fund unit holder, you aren't just a random customer. You have the right to beneficial ownership of the actual underlying assets. Check out these everyday powers you hold. Unhappy with your mutual fund distributor, you have the right to literally just change them or switch to direct investing, and the asset management company has to comply. You don't even need a no-objection certificate from your old distributor. Need a loan? You can absolutely pledge your mutual fund units as security. And if a mutual fund fundamentally changes its core investment strategy, you have the legal right to just exit that fund right then and there, without paying a single dime in exit loads.
But, what if things actually do go wrong? What if a fund house ignores these rights? Well, you have a literal digital panic button. It's called SCORES, the SEBI Complaint Redress System. If your issue isn't resolved by the mutual fund itself, you log on to this centralized platform and complain directly to SEBI. Everything from lodging the complaint to the final resolution happens in this automated environment, which holds these market intermediaries strictly accountable.
Oh, and here's a super fascinating rule about unclaimed money. Let's say you totally forget about a dividend payout. Mutual funds actually have to take those unclaimed amounts and deploy them in money market instruments. If you realize your mistake and claim the money within 3 years, you get paid based on the current net asset value, meaning you actually get the income earned on your forgotten money. But if you claim it after 3 years, your payment gets frozen at whatever the value was at the 3-year mark. So, the rules protect your money, but they heavily incentivize you to go claim what is yours promptly.
So you might be asking yourself, do these rules actually have any teeth? Absolutely. Look at the disciplinary steps outlined by AMFI, the Association of Mutual Funds in India. If a broker or bank selling mutual funds breaches the rules, there's a strict escalation. First, a written demand for an explanation. If that's not good enough, a formal warning letter. And if they actually prove a second violation, AMFI will literally cancel their registration and notify all the asset management companies. Bad actors are simply removed from the system.
We've seen how CB, the RBI, and AMFI work together to build this incredibly robust fortress around your investments. Under SEBI rules, you actually have the right to appoint up to 10 nominees for your mutual funds, ensuring your wealth seamlessly transfers to your loved ones in the exact percentages you want. The regulators have clearly done their job building the guardrails, but have you done yours? Seriously, take a look at your portfolio today. Have you actually checked your 10 allowed nominees lately? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy, safe investing.